What's up, YouTube? It's time for a book review today, Ian Christe's Sound of the Beast. So I'm a good 13 years late on this one. It originally came out in 2003. This right here is the 2004 paperback edition. I've come across this book time and time again since I've been a metalhead, and I've just finally got around to reading it. The full title is A Complete Headbanging History of Heavy Metal, and it's exactly that, a comprehensive history of heavy metal from the first fucking notes of the first Black Sabbath album all the way through nu metal in the late 90s and early 2000s. Remember, this was released in 2003, so it's before the new wave of American heavy metal kind of became a thing. With the exception of maybe power metal and folk metal, Christe touches on literally every subgenre in metal, giving not only the musical origins and the sonic makeup of each genre, but weaving tons and tons of interviews in and out to paint the historical picture and giving a lot of sociocultural context behind these eras and these genres that appear in the book. Now, in terms of listening material to kind of help guide readers through the endless mess of 30 plus years of releases to check out, each subgenre era has a genre box in which Christe gives a brief synopsis of the style in question and then lists like about a dozen albums to check out within that style. If you see here, here's the genre box for Scandinavian black metal. You've got the synopsis up here and then the albums down there. Now, in terms of the albums he chooses, I think it's a great mix between some of the obvious choices and then a bunch of releases that clearly were just included or omitted based on pure personal taste on his part. Like I think that's a good balance. Like in the death metal section, he lists the Morbid Angel albums, Formulas Fatal to the Flesh, and Blessed Are the Sick as essential death metal albums, and it omits Altars of Madness and Covenant, which to 90% of people might be insane, but it's fucking his book, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. So I think it's a good balance between you get some of the obvious stuff that everyone really should know, and you get some stuff that's clearly thrown in there due to his fandom. The analysis of the music itself is definitely written like a music writer. It's ultra descriptive. There's an occasional biting sarcasm, and of course there's an honesty that's blunt but fair. Now, in these 350 pages, or whatever it is, more than that, 350 plus pages, Christe must run through every single adjective that has ever been used by a music writer to describe music. Like, seriously, if you don't generally read a lot of music writing, you might need a thesaurus for a good 10% of these words that he's using. But the thing is, it's never written pretentiously to the point where you can't follow it. The prose is crystal clear and deliberate without being obnoxious or beating you over the head. It's a really good balancing act. And to me, in any good music writing, even if it's more history-based and less editorial or opinionated, the author's true feelings should poke through to an extent. Music is so subjective, and to pretend otherwise is just pointless. One of Christe's not so hidden theses in here that fascinated me was the idea that metal actually thrived in the 90s, if you think about it. Obviously, the common narrative is that Nirvana and grunge came in and just killed metal. Well, Christe kind of makes the argument by pointing out that Metallica was selling millions of albums and concert tickets, and all of these exciting stylistic innovations were going on in the 90s. What he's kind of saying here is that grunge and alternative may have killed pop metal and hair metal, and unfortunately the new wave of British heavy metal as well, but the rest of the genre, this big umbrella of bands and subgenres, was as healthy and as exciting as ever. And beyond that, I love how he's able to unflinchingly hate on the pop and hair metal stuff, as is his right. And he does historically give it the fair treatment, but he makes it very clear as a fan that, like the majority of metal fans, he casts it in a negative light. There's an appendix. He does a bunch of little top 5 lists at the end of the appendix. And there's this one list. It's shamelessly weak false metal anthems on page 380. And of course, as expected, When the Children Cry, White Lion, Every rose has its thorn poison, Only God Knows Why by Kid Rock, and the Final Countdown, which I think we're all probably guilty of liking at least one or two of those at some point. Above all, Christe is really to be applauded for the immense, really absurd amount of detail put into this book. There are endless anecdotes and stories and narratives and factoids from all of metal's major players that really ensure that even if you are an expert on the history of heavy metal and the evolution of its subgenres and all the key albums and whatnot, you're going to be exposed to a lot of information in here for the first time. Personally, this book even introduced me to a couple entirely new styles, which honestly shocked me because I thought I had at least been exposed to everything, but lo and behold, there's a genre in here that Christe labels metallic techno, which I guess is kind of an extreme byproduct of 90s industrial metal, where essentially electronic artists started to really absorb metal influences and make really aggressive digital music. Now, it didn't really see much success, which is probably why we don't hear about it, but I gotta check out a couple of these albums. I'm so curious what this sounds like. And then there was avant-garde metal, which included a whole flock of bands playing music that made Cynic and Atheist and Dillinger Escape Plan sound like fucking pop. Really, the saying is true. The more you learn, the less you know. But yeah, Sound of the Beast truly has something for everyone. Whether you're a self-professed metal expert, you're a curious music nerd, or you're a fucking out-of-touch parent trying to better understand your kids. Even though it's written in such painstaking detail, it's got such a wide scope. And that's probably why it's been a successful book. If you haven't seen Sam Dunn's documentary, A Headbanger's Journey, which you fucking should, this book has a lot of the positive qualities of that film, in that it's made by a metalhead, for metalheads, but anyone who has never been exposed to this music can follow it perfectly and can get just as much, if not more, out of it. And like Sam Dunn, Christe doesn't desperately plead metal's case to the non-converted. He simply narrates it with boundless passion and enthusiasm and excruciating detail. So if you're in the market for a comprehensive heavy metal history book that's a fun read, it doesn't get much better than this. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music, and I'll see you guys soon.